All right, guys, here we go. Part 2 of Fortunately the Milk. All right, I think we're at the part where the sky went dark, right? Yes, okay. This was the part. The sky went dark. We were floating above a landscape of ominous towers and disquieting castles. It was not a friendly place. Bats flew across the sky in huge flocks, crowding out the waning moon. I don't like this place, I told the professor. I don't see why not, he said. It looks as if it would be very nice when the sun comes up. There was a loud flut, and where the bats had been fluttering, several pallid people were now standing. The man in front had a very bald head, and they all had sharp teeth. Ooh, what do you think it is? That was a bat, turns into a man, and has sharp teeth. We are vampires, they said. What is this? Who are you? Answer us or we will vivisect you. I am Professor Steg, boomed the Stegosaurus. This is my assistant. We are on an important mission. I am trying to get back to the present. My assistant is trying to get home to the future for breakfast. At the word breakfast, all the vampires looked very excited. We have not had our breakfast, they told us. We normally have wiggly worms with orange juice on them. Orange juice makes worms even wigglier, like wandering spaghetti. But if we can eat worms, we will eat assistant or even roast professor. There they are with their big, sharp teeth. One of the vampires took out a fork and looked me up and down in a hungry sort of way. The boldest, most bulgy-eyed, rattiest of the vampires said, "What is this box?" "It is my finest invention," began Professor Steg proudly, but I interrupted. "It is to keep sandwiches in," I said. "Sandwiches?" said the vampire. "Sandwiches," I said, with as much certainty as I could muster. "We thought it was a time machine," said the head vampire with a sly, sharp smile, "and we could use it to invade the world." "Definitely sandwiches," I told him. "What happens if I press this button then?" asked the lady vampire. She had long black hair that covered most of her face and peered out at the world with one suspicious eye. She pressed the button. We went forward 6 hours in time. "See," said the professor happily, "all this place needs to brighten it up is a little bit of sunshine." The head vampire said, "What?" and dissolved in a cloud of oily black smoke. So did all his friends. "Yes," I said, "it is a nice place here, after all, in the daylight." The professor tinkered with the jewels and the strings and buttons, and then he said, "I think I've got it properly fine-tuned now. This next press should bring you back to your own time, place, and breakfast." But before the tip of his tail could touch the button, a voice said, "I'll explain later. Fate of the world is at stake." A hand grabbed the milk, which I carried safely for so long, and it was gone. I turned in time to catch a glimpse of a fine-looking gentleman with his back to me, holding my milk, and then the hole in space through which he had reached was closed. "My milk!" he said. "I'll explain later," said the professor. I'd be inclined to believe him. The hole in space opened again. A voice shouted, "Catch!" and the milk came rocketing through. Fortunately, the milk struck me in the stomach, and in clutching my hands to my belly, I caught the milk. "There," said the professor. "Everything is back to normal." He did say he'd explain later, I pointed out, and that wasn't much of an explanation. "But it's not later yet," said Professor Steg. "It's still now. It won't be later until—" He was arranging pebbles and stones in the string on top of the time machine box. "Final coordinates entered," he said, "and then it's off to your house for breakfast." "Does that mean there's a stegosaurus in a hot air balloon outside?" I asked my dad. There's the hole in space and the milk coming. Remember, it's their dad telling them the story of why he was so long getting the milk, right? "There is not," he said, for reasons that will become apparent." "I think there should have been some nice vampires," said my sister wistfully. "Nice, handsome, misunderstood vampires. They were not, said my father. There's her nice, handsome, misunderstood vampire holding a rose. Vampire, not vampire. Vampire. Would you like to press the button? Said Professor Stagg. I pressed the red button. There was an ear-popping noise, a flicker of years, and I was floating in a balloon basket above the intersection of Marshall Road and Fletcher Lane. I could see our house from above. I could see the bicycles in the back garden. I could see the rabbit hutch. We're here, I said, and I patted Professor Stagg on the back ridge plates. It was very nice having you as a traveling companion. Arr, said the professor, because there was a familiar sort of thum noise. No, thank you, honey, not now. Go put them back, please. We'll share them later. Put them back. And before I had a chance to press the red button, we were deposited, balloon and all, on the enormous metal deck of a flying saucer, with a number of very grumpy-looking green globby people staring at us with too many eyes, and they did not look pleased. Uh-oh. Remember from the beginning? What started all the trouble? Ha-ha, said several globby people at the same time. You thought you had escaped us, but you were wrong. Now you must sign the planet over to us so we can remodel it. We will take out all the trees for start and put in plastic flamingos. Why? We like plastic flamingos. We think they are the highest and finest art form on the earth that has achieved. They are tidier than trees. Also, we're going to replace the clouds with scented candles. We like scented candles too, explained a huge green grubby person who looked like he was mostly made out of snot. We also like decorative plates, said another. We will put a decorative plate up where the moon is now. A really big decorative plate showing all the landmarks of the world. And we will then replace all the landmarks of the world with decorative plates with pictures of the landmarks on them too. So the Eiffel Tower will be replaced with a large plate with a picture of the Eiffel Tower on it. And Australia will be replaced by a really big, seriously big plate with Australia on it. We will also replace all of your mountains with throw cushions, said the smallest, globbiest thing of all, with triumph in his glutinous voice. Remember, my friends, this is a Neil Gaiman story. It is weird, but that's why we like it. We learned a lot from our previous meeting, said some globs that were sticking to the wall. If you look over there, you'll see the door to the space-time continuum you used to escape through last time is now securely locked. It was definitely locked. It had a huge padlock on it saying, "Keep out," in unfriendly red letters. There was also chains on it and a tape that said, "Do not cross." And in handwritten notices it said, "For your convenience, please use another door." Escape was impossible. Also, we have deposited your time machine and down-powered it. I looked at the professor. His armored back flaps were drooping. His tail was, well, not actually between his legs, because stegosauruses aren't made that way. But if they were, it would have been. We have been tracking your movements through time and space, said a large globby alien in front of a console with a screen on it. Now we see what happens when I press this grundle door for, said a particularly drippy alien. It was half sticking to the wall next to a large black shiny button. It's called a button, I said. Nonsense! We named her after our brood aunt, Nessie Grundledorfer, said the globby aliens. The particular drippy alien pressed the black button in the metal wall, and something that might have been a finger and might just have been a long strand of snot. There was a crackle, there was a fizz, and standing around us in attitudes of anger and irritation were several pirates. Some of the black-haired people from the jungle, a very unhappy-looking volcano god, and a large bowl filled with piranhas, and some vampires. So all the creatures they had met through their travels are now standing there with the aliens after they press the button. There's the rest of them. Mountain god, the vampires, the bowl of piranha. I'm not sure that I understand what the piranhas are doing, said my sister. They were from a narrow escape earlier that I forgot to mention, said our father. Fortunately, the milk floated at a crucial moment, and it all ended for the best. I thought it might, I said. There's the sister. She's very confused. Are you confused by the story yet, guys? Uh-oh, I said. Prepare to be keel-hauled, you scurvy dog, shouted the pirates. Let us now sacrifice them both to Splod, shouted the men with the shiny black hair. They stole my eye twice, rumbled mighty Splod. We want those wheelians and walnuts violently wound up, proclaimed a tall lady vampire with long fingernails. The piranhas said nothing, but they thrashed about in their bowl ominously. Doomed, moaned Professor Steg. We cannot escape. They have frozen us in time and devoured us. Even my mighty time machine can do no more than open a small window in time and space, smaller than either of us could get through. But can you do it? I asked. Open a little window in our time and our last location. Of course, but what good would that do? Quickly, I said, do it! Professor Steg pushed the button on the box with the tip of his nose. There was a zump and a pip, and a window opened in space and time large enough for an arm to get through. I reached into it. I'll explain later, I said. Fate of the world at stake. I grabbed the milk from me 15 minutes earlier through the time-space-time portal. You must like milk a lot, said the globby aliens, but that craving for lactic liquids will not make us take pity on you or let you go or spare your badly designed planet. It should, I said. What am I holding in my left hand? The milk, they said. And what am I holding in my right hand? They paused. Then one alien, so green and small and so globby and encrusted that he might have been an enormous snot bubble blown by an elephant with a terrible head cold, said, the same milk from 15 minutes earlier. Uh-oh, do you remember what happens when two things from different periods touch each other? Exactly, I said. Now, think about this one very carefully. What would happen if I touched these two things together? The green globby aliens went very pale green. The pirates, shiny black-haired men, the piranhas looked at them puzzled, seeking some kind of explanation, as did the vampires. If two things that are the same thing touch, proclaimed the volcano god, then the whole universe shall end, thus saith the great and unutterable Splod. How does a volcano know so much about temporal and meta-science? Asked one of the pale green aliens. Being a geological formation gives you a lot of time to think, said Splod. Also, I subscribe to a number of learned journals. I coughed in what I hoped was an enormous sort of way. Well, I asked. What he said, admitted the green globby aliens. A bit about the universe ending. So, I told them, unless you wish to spend the rest of your lives in a universe that no longer exists, you'd better return things to the way they were, and then go away. The aliens looked at each other. They grinned at each other. One of them pressed the Grundledorfer. The vampires, pirates, piranhas, volcano god, and worshippers of the volcano god were gone. What if, suggested one of the green globby aliens hopefully, we only redecorated the southern hemisphere? Not a chance, I said. Now release us, or the milk touches itself, and then go away and leave this planet forever. The aliens looked at me, and then they looked at each other, and then they sighed with a noise like 100 elephantine snot balloons, all deflating at once. Ew. Right, they said. It was at that very moment that a voice louder than anything I have ever heard, and I had heard a volcano erupt at very close range, said, Galactic police, do not move! My hands shook, but the milk did not touch the milk, and the universe did not end. There were red and blue flashing lights, and then, stepping off the space bikes, were about 6 uniformed dinosaurs holding unmistakably large and extremely serious weapons. They pointed their weapons at the green globby aliens. You are charged with breaking into other people's planets and redecorating them, said a noble and imposing-looking Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then with running away and doing it again somewhere else all over again. You have committed crimes against the inhabitants of 18 planets and crimes against good taste. What we did to Regal 4 was art, argued a globby alien. Art? There are people on Regal 4, said an ankylosaurus, who have to look up every night at a moon with 3 huge plaster ducks flying across it. Something very long with a head on one end came over to us. It was attached to a very long body on the other side of the room. Who are you? It asked Professor Steg. And why is your gorilla holding a trans-temporally dislocated milk container? I'm not a gorilla, I said. I am a human father. The human is holding the milk in order to make these evil redecorating snot bubbles go away and stop menacing this planet and us, said Professor Stegg. The Diplodocus in a police cap opened its mouth but didn't say anything. The Tyrannosaurus, who had handcuffed all of the green gobby people together with something that looked more like pink string in a can than it looked like handcuffs, which was a good thing because they probably didn't have hands and they definitely didn't have wrists, stared at us with his eyes open wide. Great day in the morning, he exclaimed. A biped, a stegosaurus, a floaty ball person carrier, and he stopped as if unable to go on. A pteranodon flapped over to us and then landed on Professor Stegg's feet. It looked up at him and said hesitantly, could you be the inventor of Professor Stegg's pointy zooming into outer space machine? Of Professor Stegg's really good moves around in time machine? Would you be the author of My Travels into the Extremely Far Future and What I Found There? Professor Stegg, wisest of all dinosaur kind? Madam, is it truly you? It is, said the professor. Madam, I thought, embarrassed. And this is my assistant. The pteranodon extended a wingtip for me to shake, and without thinking, I moved the second milk to my right hand, to my left, where the first milk was. Everybody gasped. Unfortunately, the milk that had been in my right hand, which was the same milk that was already in my left hand, the same milk 15 minutes apart, touched each other. I held my breath. There was a fizzing noise and a mewing as if 100 kittens were being agitated in an enormous basket. Professor Stegg closed her eyes. I can't look, she said. 3 purple dwarfs with flower pots on their heads appeared from nowhere and began to do a little dance. Did the universe end? Said the Tyrannosaurus with his eyes tightly scrunched closed. Look, I said. Remember, that was the other thing that might possibly happen, the dwarves with the flower pots on their heads. We all watched the dwarves dance. They weren't human, they weren't dinosaurs. They had purple skin and flower pots on their heads and lots of flowers growing out of them. They did a complicated sort of dance with lots of leg kicking and shouts of oi and ole and patong. And then, as strangely as they had come, they vanished. Ah, said Professor Stegg. It was always a possibility that this might happen. And fortunately, the universe has not ended. She pressed the button again with her tail. A small hole in the space and time opened up, and I was standing on the other side with a baffled expression on my face. Catch! I shouted, and threw the milk through the hole. As the portal closed, I saw me catch the milk using my stomach. The green globby aliens, having been rounded up and taken away, all the space dinosaurs gathered around. I can't believe it, said the Diplodocus. Professor Stegg, just like in the comics, the dinosaur who taught us that the far future small mammals will eat their breakfast cereal with milk on it. Inventor of the button. She's here, in front of us, with her gorilla. There's the dwarves with the flower pots. Not a gorilla, but a human father, said Professor Stegg. And all the dinosaurs gasped and said things like, how wise she is, and what a brain, and can you tell the difference between a creature and a gorilla? Is it the shoes? Professor Stegg said, this human father has been my companion on my strange journey into the future. Now, before I take my leave of him and come with you, O space dinosaurs, we should sing to him one of the great old dinosaur songs. They sang me a song in 6-part harmony called How Do You Feel This Morning When You Know What You Did Last Night? And then they sang me a song called Don't Go Down to the Tar Pits, Dear, Because It's Getting Stuck on You. The Space Police dinosaurs sang me a song about being space police and saving all the people all over the universe and driving very fast space bikes. And then they all sang a song called I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Hard, Wet, Hairy White Crunchers, which was an ancient dinosaur song that had apparently been written by Professor Stegg's Aunt Button. There is nothing in the whole creation as beautiful as dinosaurs singing in harmony. That's actually a real song, my friends. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. There they are, standing in a row. Big one, small one, some as big as your head. That's actually how the song goes if you look it up. I know you all have YouTube and are using it on a daily basis. So, look up that song. With Mom or Dad's help, please, because you never know what you might find. Now, said Professor Stegg, I shall go off in my floaty ball person carrier with my newfound dinosaur space police friends, and I shall explore the universe. And then I shall return to my own time and write a book about it. You actually write several books, said the Diplodocus. Professor Steg's Guide to Everything in the Whole of the Future was my favorite. It's very inspirational. I said goodbye to all the dinosaurs. I thanked Professor Steg for saving my life. Not at all, she said. We were both fortunate that you had the milk with you. It's not every container of milk that saves the world, after all. That was me that saved the world, I said, not the milk. The pace dinosaurs all had their pictures taken holding the milk and smiling at the camera. What are you going to do with the milk, they asked me. Are you going to put it in a museum? No, I am not, I told them. I'm going to give it to my children for their breakfast cereal, and possibly I will pour some in my tea. Professor Steg nipped back at the rope of the rope ladder and climbed into the gondola of her balloon. The last I saw of her, of any of them, the whole inside of the saucer was fading into the light so bright I had to close my eyes to look away. And then I was standing at the back door of our house, none the worse for wear. Fortunately, the dinosaurs had given me back the milk after they had the photos taken with it. So I came in, and here I am. That was what my dad said. I looked at my sister, and my sister looked at me. And then we looked all around the kitchen at the calendar on the wall, and the hot air balloons on it, and my dinosaur models, and my sister's ponies, and my sister's vampire books. I had a picture of a volcano I had painted when I was little last year, which was still up on the wall by the fridge. We looked at those things, and we looked at my dad. You know we don't believe any of this, said my sister. We don't, I told him. Not any of it. Especially not the part how you saved the world from being remodeled. All the pirates. Not any of it, I said. My father shrugged. Suit yourselves, he said, but it was all true, and I can prove it. How? Yes, how? Asked my little sister. Well, said my father, putting it down on the kitchen table, here's the milk. And he went back to reading his paper. Do you see under the milk? It's a pirate coin, and that is the end. I hope you like that, my friends.